Welcome. I would like to welcome you to episode 295 of the Unpopular Podcast. This is the man, the myth, the legend, Jalen Hunter. And here at the Unpopular Podcast, I'm not asking you to agree with me. I'm asking you to hear me out. We have to decide what the goal is for growth. Are we proponents of growth, or are we not? That question, that statement was put on display more than ever this week last week when Deion Sanders accepted the job or accepted the position for the new head coaching job. Well, accepted the position as a new head coach for the Colorado football team. Of course, that means he's leaving or left Jackson State University, which he was there for a couple years. They did win their championship or their conference championship. So the question is, what do we want? You see, I talk about a lot. Knowing your worth. And I also talk about a lot how African Americans don't get a lot of opportunities that Caucasians get when we talk about the sports world, when we talk about coaching or something like that. You'll see a lot of African American coordinators, but you won't see a lot of head coaches. Same in the college realm. You'll see a lot of African American coaches or coordinators and stuff, or you'll see a lot of African American coaches at the HBCU level. But when you go to the PWI level, where the big money, you don't see a lot of it. Now, that is a problem in and of itself because, HBCUs and PWIs should be looked at equally, but of course they're not. But that's a different topic for a different day. All I've heard it's been a divide. Some people are ecstatic with Deion Sanders accepting the Colorado head coaching position, and some people are upset. Some people think that he turned his back on Jackson State and he turned his back on the African American community. He turned his back on HBCUs. Here's the thing. Not everyone. How do I say this? I'm happy for Deion Sanders, man. It's unfortunate that Jackson State wasn't able to pay him what Colorado is able to pay him, which actually it looks like Colorado probably can't even afford that, but I don't know. But I'm almost sure if Jackson State could afford it, he would be there. You see, we have to look at what he did in his tenure. I think a damn near perfect graduation rate. Shine the light because his light is so bright. Because Deion Sanders' light is so bright, they were able to shine a light on HBCUs in general. Hell, College Game Day, ESPN College Game Day went to an HBCU. I went to Jackson State, I believe. Look, it doesn't matter. Yes, I'm sure people would love, and I'm sure Deion Sanders would have loved to stay. But what are we in the head coaching business for? To grow, to elevate, to grow kids, to be around the sport that you love, and he's still able to do that out of Colorado. No, it's not Jackson State, but he left Jackson State a better place, and that is all you can ask for from somebody. Look, I'm not caping for Deion Sanders, but I do think it's crazy that people say he turned his back on the HBCU, and all the HBCU did for him, and look, how is he gonna look? We see coaches move all the time. That's what it is. I think Deion Sanders had a very successful tenure at Jackson State because it's 10 times better than it was before he got there. People saying he pimped out Jackson State. How? You think Deion Sanders needs Jackson State? Deion Sanders. Or needed Jackson State? I think two things can be said. While you may be disappointed that he left, doesn't mean that he didn't have a positive impact when he was there. And I think he'll have a good impact at Colorado. Colorado ain't seen a winning season in a minute. Been one of the laughing stocks of the Pac-12 for a good while. They have a storied history, but the last couple decades has been tough. And I think that there's nothing that Deion Sanders has shown me that makes me think it's not going to work. One thing that coaches need is the ability to connect where their students, where their players are. And I have not seen somebody do that better than Deion Sanders. Remember, before Deion went to Jackson State, I don't even think they had like more than 4 wins in like 10 seasons. Deion Sanders goes there, 2, I think, back-to-back undefeated seasons. National championship. I think we have to understand, we have to look at things at face value. And we have to understand what's really like. Think about it. If your company, wherever you're working, if another company came and offered you more money, would you not take it? That doesn't mean you hate your previous or your the company you're leaving, but wouldn't you take it? A lot more money at that. $5 million a year. You're still able to do what you love. You're still able to make an impact in kids' lives. Why would you not take it? Again, people say that they're for growth and elevation, but when it's there, it's just people are. It's tough. I hope nothing but success for Deion Sanders. I really do. And he has done nothing but succeed in Jackson State. Again, the bigger problem that I have, and has nothing to do with Deion Sanders. It has everything to do with the fact of Jackson State couldn't afford Deion Sanders after long. That and the fact of Colorado can a PWI, but Jackson State couldn't. That's the bigger issue, but I'm happy for Deion Sanders. I wish nothing but the best for Deion Sanders. And speaking of college football, staying in the college football realm, the Final Four was announced. Number 1, you had Georgia. Number 2, you have Michigan State. Number 3, you have TCU. Number 4, you have Ohio State. Now, first and foremost, USC, man. You picked the worst time to look your absolute worst. They, losing in the Pac-12 championship to Utah badly. I think they lost by like 21. I know Caleb Williams got hurt, and I still think that he should probably and will probably win the Heisman. He just had an electric season. But the biggest question or the biggest concern or gripe that I'm hearing out is Alabama. So TCU lost and USC lost. USC got dropped or got bounced out. They put Ohio State. A lot of people thought because TCU should have dropped or lost, they would got hopped over by two-loss Alabama team. I'm glad they didn't put Alabama because you can't put a two-loss team in there when you have TCU, who's been damn near, who will go down as one-loss team. No. Mm-mm. Now, do I think that Alabama is better than TCU? Probably. But and do I think that TCU has its flaws? I've been very open to saying, TCU has come back from a lot of these games. Their defense isn't that good, and their offense, it's a big play offense, but it's not really if it doesn't hit the big plays, it's kind of stagnant. However, they're winning, and they to me, they deserve to be in the college football playoffs. Yes, I think Bama might be better on any given Sunday, but it just wasn't in the cards. This is the first year. Let me say this, not the first year. I think that, of course, I'll give my official prediction closer to the game, but this really feels like a two-team race, and that is Georgia and Michigan. I think Michigan has been arguably the best team this entire season, even though that Georgia and Michigan have both undefeated. Michigan, they can beat you in a lot of ways, man. J.J. McCarthy isn't the most, special quarterback, but when you have Blake Corum, when you have Donovan Edwards, they just lean on you. And when they lean on you, it is a rugged brand of football. And I felt that way. It's not the fact that they beat Ohio State. It's how they beat Ohio State. It's how I knew they beat Ohio State in a way that they haven't beat any other team. Every other team is run the ball, give the ball to Blake Corum, just run. That's not how they beat Ohio State. J.J. McCarthy made big plays. They were throwing the ball all over the place. And I like Jim Harbaugh. I'm not going to lie to you. I like Jim Harbaugh. I like Jim Harbaugh. I do think that, again, I'll give my final predictions or official predictions closer to the game, but this really feels like a 1-2. A 1-2 me. It kind of feels like Georgia, because Georgia with Stetson Bennett, I can see them. I would say that Georgia had a really bad break going up against Ohio State, but when you have Jackson Smith, Najaba, I don't know how to say his last name. He's not playing due to the draft. You still do have C.J. Stroud. You have Marvin Harrison Jr., who has made some incredible catches. It's going to be a tough matchup because it's two different brands of football. Let me say that, but it kind of feels like it's Georgia and Michigan, and I really like Michigan. Again, I'm gone. This is not an official prediction, but I do like Michigan. I like them a lot. It just feels good. And no, I don't think Alabama should have been in the Final Four. They have 2 losses. Like, no. If that's the case, like, then the whole conference champions, or not conference champions, the whole regular season shouldn't even matter. Because it's like, how are you going to award somebody that has lost more than another team and have TCU lost by a field goal in overtime? So there's that. Let's break down Week 13 of the NFL. Let's start with the Steelers beating the Falcons 19-16. This is yet another game where Kenny Pickett has surprised me. Kenny Pickett's looking better and better. Now, again, the Falcons' defense hasn't been that good, but they keep looking better and better and better. I will say that. I know that the biggest story out of this game was George Pickens pretty much yelling, talking about, give me the ball. There's a time and a place, but like Mike Tomlin, who is rapidly becoming my favorite coach of all time, not the best, but my favorite, said, hey, I like that dog in him. I like the fact that he wants the ball. I like the fact that he wants to be more involved. But, we'll work on the maturity. I respect it, man. And the Steelers they're not a good team, but they're winning games. They're looking good in areas that have question marks. Kenny Pickett looks good in certain areas. The defense is still the defense, even with T.J. Watt and Minka, even though I think Minka's still out. Shout out to the Steelers. The Ravens beat the Broncos 10-9. The biggest storyline of this game was Lamar Jackson injuring his PCL in the knee. He's going to be out for 1 to 3 weeks. Because the schedule, I think next week they play the Steelers. Next week they play. Actually, are they in a bye week next week? No, next week they play the Steelers. Then the week after they play. The week after they play the Browns. These are divisional games, so they're going to be big. So I expect them to try to get on the field as quick as possible. But Tyler Huntley is a good quarterback, but he's not Lamar Jackson. And that, of course, that's simple. But this Ravens team their whole attack is predicated around and built around Lamar Jackson. And while Tyler Huntley is he's a decent quarterback, this offense is built around Lamar Jackson. So they're going to try to run the ball heavy and lean on their defense. But, hell, their defense is one of the biggest reasons why they're giving up a whole bunch of fourth quarter leads. So I do want to see what they look like without Lamar. Clearly, it's not going to be as explosive, and it may not even be good to watch. But shouts out to the Ravens for winning. At least Tyler Huntley came in and won them the game. I think got their only touchdown in the game. Shouts out to them, man. The Broncos, bro. Broncos are still the Broncos. Let's just say that. Boy, oh boy. The Packers beat the Bears 28-19. The Packers scored 18 unanswered fourth quarter points. Still Aaron Rodgers, man. Again, there's one thing that you're starting to see is we at first thought it was going to be Amari Rodgers, but Christian Watson is quickly becoming Aaron Rodgers' go-to guy. He had 2 or 3 touchdowns on Sunday. It's a good connection. It's looking like a great connection. They're looking better. The biggest problem still their defense. The defense continues to look bad. Like it's not even funny at this point. But actually, it's more shocking than anything because it's again the names. I say this all the time. The names that they have on this defense should be 10 times better than what they are, but they're not. So, but they did score 18 unanswered points against the Bears in the fourth quarter. By the way, so shouts out to the Packers beating the Bears. The Lions destroyed the Jaguars 40-14. I told you this. I said the Lions are better than their record. The Lions are one of the top scoring teams in the league, top scoring offenses in the league. It's just they have had a tough time finishing games. As you see, they finished the game. The Lions are good. Dan Campbell, they believe in Dan Campbell. Their running game is good. Jared Goff, he's not doing too much sometimes. It's a good team. The defense is really good with Jeff Okudah. Like, this is a good team. It's just they need to continue to finish games. And I'm not saying that they'd be one of the best, but they're better than their 5-11 record. All I'm saying about that. Shouts out to them. The Browns beat the Texans 27-14. Of course, we knew Deshaun Watson was coming back. A lot of different mixed reactions. Some people were happy. Some you heard a lot of boos. We understand. This isn't one of those situations where if he just continues to win, or they just continue to stop, or they just stop talking about it, i.e., like Brett Favre. That it's just gonna go away. It's not. People, people have opinions, and people are gonna stick to their opinions and ride on their opinions. So let's just talk about the game. He as in Deshaun Watson, looked exactly how I thought he was going to look. Like a person that did not play football or meaningful football for 700 days. He looked rusty. He looked bad. He didn't throw any touchdowns. He threw a bad pick. I think he hurt his thumb. It's going to take time to acclimate yourself back into the game. Damn near 2 years is tough to just bounce back with, but I will say if they played any other team, like a good team, because we all know the Texans are not good. They're 1-10-1. They probably would have lost if they needed Deshaun Watson to be better, but they didn't. The defense is still the defense, and they won. The run game, Nick Chubb was still good. So shouts out to the Browns. Again, it's going to take Deshaun Watson some time to get a feel back, but they won. The Vikings beat the Jets 27-22. A lot of people were saying if Mike White or when Mike White loses, then it should go back to Zach Williams, but I don't agree. Yes, he did throw a game-ending interception, but Mike White looked really good the entire game. Like it wasn't. I'm not gonna say it was. He wasn't the biggest reason why he lost. Yeah, he's the big, he threw probably the pass of his life to Corey Davis. He's a good quarterback. He's not the best, but he's a good quarterback. And I do think, again, they continue to reiterate, he does the simple things. He makes the easy things look easy. And you're going up against a team that is at that point 9-2. And you almost beat them. So shouts out to Mike White. Shouts out to the Vikings for beating the Jets. The Commanders and Giants ended in a tie 2020. Two mid quarterbacks, Taylor Heineke, Daniel Jones, had a mid off, and it ended in a tie. Both teams, I know the Giants are in the bubble. Washington in the hunt, right outside the bubble. I know. Chase Young should be coming back soon, so we'll see how that looks. And the Giants have not been looking good. I'm gonna tell you, the Giants have not looked good. That's all I'll say about that. The Eagles beat the Texans 35-10, but the biggest story out of that game, and actually out of that whole situation, is John Robinson getting fired. Now, John Robinson has a winning record as a GM. I guess they just had a bad, the ownership and the GM just didn't see eye to eye. I mean, you let A.J. Brown walk. In fact, you let A.J. Brown go, and then he comes back and torches you. A.J. Brown was going crazy on Sunday against the Titans. Not saying, Treylon Burks is good, but he was out, or he went out with an injury. If you just look at his record, it's good, but again, there was some organizational things. Ryan Tannehill has looked horrible. Like, not horrible, but hasn't really looked good this year. I get it, I guess. If you're not just looking at the record, some of the things that have transpired is kind of tough. So, but hey, shouts out to the Eagles. The Eagles look still one of if not the best team in the league. They're 11-1, best record. They just continue to keep rolling. That's what they're doing. So shouts out to Jalen Hurts. Shouts out to A.J. Brown and that crew for beating the Titans. The Seahawks beat the Rams 27-23. Geno Smith statistically is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He had a little dust up with Kenneth Walker, I think, on the sideline, but they ultimately won. It's cool. The biggest news out of the Rams was actually what happened yesterday when they, first and foremost, Baker Mayfield got waived by the Panthers. I put this in a video that it's over with for Baker Mayfield as we know it. As far as being a starting quarterback, I don't see that happening again. Being a serviceable quarterback, it could. There just has to be some changes to be made. Well, the Panthers were like, yeah, no, we've seen enough, brother. You are waived. And he got picked up by the Rams. I don't need to stay on this long because Baker Mayfield has been god-awful. I think he's had the worst QBR since they've been tracking QBR, like worst ever, like 18 or something. He's been bad. I don't know what he's going to look like with the Rams. I doubt he's going to get a lot of, the rate in which Matthew Stafford keeps getting concussions, he might play. I don't know, but Baker Mayfield lands on yet another team, former overall pick, which was a reach. It is what it is. So, shouts out to them. The 49ers beat the Dolphins 33-17. Jimmy G breaks his foot. It was originally thought to be season-ending, but yesterday I think the doctor came back and said he doesn't need surgery, which would mean it would be season ending. So he doesn't need surgery, meaning he can come back in like 7 to 8 weeks, which is close to a playoff run. That's going to be big. Their backup quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant, he came back. He came in and looked great. Now, I was listening to something Dan Orlowski said. It is different when you come in. One, you don't expect to play, but when you come in and you already have the lead. I do want to see what he looks like when you start the game. It's on you, see how it is. But the 49ers, especially their defense looked incredible. Like it's been all year. This has been the best defensive unit in football. Let me say this. It's been I'll say the first half of the season was the Cowboys defensive unit as the best unit or defensive unit in football. Now I'll say the 49ers because they're just got Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, Ward. They just look incredible. The story did come out, or not the story. The Tua didn't play well. Tua didn't play well in the slightest, and the Dolphins lost. I'm going to say it's a one-off because a lot of things that Tua did in that game, not used to. Like, Tua is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league. He was not accurate in the slightest. He kept overthrowing people, underthrowing people. I'm not saying that that's going to define him, but, it just wasn't that good. So, but the 49ers did beat him, and both teams look really good. Again, I do want to see what the 49ers, and I'm actually kind of surprised because I thought once I heard that Baker Mayfield was going to get waived, I thought that he could probably get picked up by the 49ers, but they like their backup quarterback, Plucky, and they're going to roll with it. So we'll see. The biggest game, which I don't understand why it was 4 o'clock, but the biggest game was the Chiefs losing to the Bengals 27-24. Joe Burrow is playing some of the best football in the league. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, or he's played himself into one of the best quarterbacks in the league conversation. He's been great, and this is the Bengals that we saw make it to the Super Bowl last year. High octane offense, Joe Burrow making precise passes, making passes nobody else could make outside of maybe a few people. You still have T. Higgins, even though one thing I will say though, this team looks a lot different from last team because of the run game. Last year, the team was more of a finesse running, and that's no offense to Joe Mixon, but Joe Mixon isn't a strong, bruising running back. Now that you have Samaje P. Ryan in place of Joe Mixon while he's hurt, he brings a level of physicality that this team hasn't really had. And, of course, Jamar Chase wasn't even playing and they still won. You add on Jamar Chase. Oh, no, actually, I'm sorry. Jamar Chase came back and they won. You still have Jamar Chase. You have T. Higgins. You have Tyler Boyd. Now you have Samaje P. Ryan and Joe Mixon when he gets back. That is a tough offense to stop, especially when it comes with the physicality that it has not had. And I don't think it's I don't. One thing that's been concerning me, and that's always been a concern for this Kansas City Chiefs team, is their defense. Their defense gives up way too many big plays and way too many clutch plays to the point where their offense cannot make a mistake. If their offense makes a mistake, i.e. a turnover, i.e. when, Travis Kelce turned the ball over, had the fumble, you can't do that with this defense because they're not going to. I mean, yes, you have Chris Jones, but that's and Carlos Dunlap, but that's pretty much it. You have to you can't do that. So, shout out to the Bengals for being the Chiefs. The Raiders beat the Chargers 27-20. I went up against personal note. I went up against Devontae Adams in fantasy. The man put 39 himself on my head. That's crazy. Again, the Raiders kind of like the Dolphins, not Dolphins, kind of like the Detroit Lions in the sense of they're better than their record. I mean, that's not true. That's not true. The Raiders are better as far as a roster than their record. They're not. They are exact. They are all of 5-7. But they did beat the Chargers. Josh Jacobs has been running rampant for the past few weeks. The connection to Devontae Adams or Derek Carter, Devontae Adams is getting stronger. I do think that we've probably seen the last of Darren Waller in Vegas. I think they're going to try to trade him, but the Chargers, man, look. I get it, man. I do get it. I get it. You have Justin Herbert. You have Keenan Allen. You have Austin Eckler. But this team should be better than 6-6, even with all the injuries that they sustained. This team should be better than 6-6. That's all I'm saying. The Colts, the Cowboys beat the Colts 54-19. I'll go on a limb and say that the Cowboys currently is the second best team, not just record wise. I'm saying my opinion. They're the second best team in the North, in the NFC. I will say that I kind of go back and forth between the Cowboys and the 49ers, but I'm gonna give even with Jimmy G healthy, I give Dak Prescott sort of an advantage there, but this Cowboys team is great, man. And I know it's the Colts, and the Colts kind of imploded, but the Cowboys are good. And I'll be shocked if they don't at least make it to the NFC Championship. So, but shouts out to the Cowboys beating the Colts. And it's again, CeeDee Lamb has looked good. The running game has still looked good. The defense is still the defense. Minka Parsons still looks like he probably won defensive player of the year. It's been something to see. I'll tell you that. And Monday Night Football. I'm sorry. The Buccaneers beat the Saints 17-19 or 17-16. To me, this is more of the Saints blowing this game than the Bucs. Shouts out to Tom Brady. I think having the most comeback wins, being down 16-3 and coming back and winning in the four, but the Saints imploded, man. The Saints suck. The Saints, if you're a good team, if you consider yourself a good team, a playoff team, a championship-laden team, or a team that has championship aspirations, you cannot be up 16-17 or 16-3 and lose the game 16-17, even if Tom Brady's on the other side. The Bucs did not look good for 3 hours. It was that last few minutes in the last quarter that they just came alive, but the Bucs did not look good in the slightest. But the Saints folded. So there's that. That is my breakdown of Week 13. And with that breakdown, I did want to give my NFL rankings, my top 5 in the NFL MVP rankings. There's been a lot of great people. Lamar Jackson still should be in conversation, even though with the whole injury and we know the Ravens record and everything, even though they're still on the top of the AFC North. There's been some Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson should be up there. It's there's been some really good NFL play. Hell, even though I think he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year, I do think Minka Parsons can be up there for MVP discussion. But here's my top 5 MVP talks right now. Number 5, I have to go with Tua Tagovailoa. Even though they did struggle on Sunday. They're 8-4. They have one of the most prolific offenses in the league. He's again, even though it didn't happen on Sunday, he's still one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league. And he had when McMillan and has this offense going, it's going, and that a lot of that is due to Tua. I like Tua, man. Even though again he had a bad outing, I still have him as number 5. My MVP list. Number 4, I have Geno Smith. Again, I know it's not the most flashy pick, but again, think about it. When we went into this season, the Seahawks just traded traded Russell Wilson for Geno Smith and a whole bunch of stuff. Not Geno Smith, Drew Lock. And there was a quarterback competition between Drew Lock and Geno Smith. Now, if you look statistically, Geno Smith is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Passing percentage, passing touchdowns, touchdown to interception, or touchdown to turnover ratio. Game winning. He just had a game-winning touchdown to DK Metcalf on Sunday. He is statistically one of the best quarterbacks in the league. That is Geno Smith, and I have him at number 4. Number 3, I have Joe Burrow. Do you remember? Hell, there's a reason why I wasn't sure, and I didn't think that the Bengals were going to make the playoffs, and it didn't look like they were going to make the playoffs early on. A lot of it with Jamar Chase missing the time that he missed. Joe Burrow has still looked great. Joe Burrow looks like they just beat the Chiefs. Joe Burrow looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Definitely look top 5 in my opinion. He's quite a lot of doubters. Let's say that, especially the people that doubt how he was going to look coming out of LSU. He silenced the doubters. Joe Burrow looks good. Looks incredibly good. I'm not going to lie to you. Shouts out to Joe Burrow, but I have him at number 2 or 3. Number 2, I have Jalen Hurts. Look, I will admit when I'm wrong about something. I have no problem in doing that. I was wrong about Jalen Hurts. I thought Jalen Hurts was just a running quarterback. I thought that if a team's going to beat the Eagles or beat Jalen Hurts, make him throw the ball. He has proven me wrong tremendously. Like, he has been absolutely fantastic. Shouts out to Jalen Hurts. I mean, no, not Jalen. Shouts out to Jalen Hurts. He has been. I mean, they're 11-1. A lot of that is due to him. Yeah, that's a great team. The offense is good. The defense is good. But a lot of that is his connection with A.J. Brown, his connection with Devontae Smith, his connection with, Miles Sanders in the run-pass option offense, or RPO. Boy, it is tough. And he is great. I have Jalen Hurts at number 2. And number 1, I have Patrick Mahomes. Yes, I know they're 9-3, but Patrick Mahomes is putting up yet another historic season as far as numbers, as far as stats, and this is without or losing. This is a season after losing Tyreek Hill. This man, Patrick Mahomes, is different. Patrick Mahomes is having one of those type seasons, and that's why I have him as number 1 as my MVP. Right now, at least. So to go back, number 5, Tua. Number 4, Geno Smith. Number 3, Joe Burrow. Number 2, Jalen Hurts. Number 1 in my MVP ranking currently is Patrick Mahomes. Now, I do think that Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts are really close, but we'll see who wins then. Let's move forward. I just had to shout out Anthony Davis, man. I, just like everybody, has been hella crucial when we talk about Anthony Davis, and rightfully so. Anthony Davis has not looked good or wasn't looking good this entire season. Of course, we know about the injury history. We know about the back soreness that he has now or had now. Anthony Davis, one of the biggest reasons why the Lakers were struggling is because Anthony Davis was not playing to the ability that we thought he was. It wasn't good. And hell, they were like 2-8, 2-10 at one point with Anthony Davis playing. It just didn't look good. I will say this: the last 5, 6, maybe 7 games, Anthony Davis is on a tear. He just had 55 and like 17 against the Wizards. The man's averaging like 35 points in the last like 7 games. Now I'm not going to go as far as say he is at this current time, but there was a question when, both of them were on their rise. There was a question as to who was better between Giannis Antetokounmpo and Anthony Davis. And I was on the side. It was a very hard question, and I kind of sided with Anthony Davis. I will say this. Is Anthony Davis better than Giannis? No. I do not think Anthony Davis is better than Giannis. Even this current iteration of Anthony Davis that we're seeing is not better than Giannis. I do think that Anthony Davis is more skilled than Giannis. I think he's a better shooter than Giannis. I think that has better handles than Giannis. Of course, defensively, it's kind of a toss-up, especially with Giannis and his But I do think that the Anthony Davis that we currently see these last few games is the Anthony Davis that you could have an argument as to, is he better than Giannis? And this is the one where I had to question, like, I don't know, man, because Anthony Davis, I remember saying when I was doing my MVP for the NBA so far, I said, let's not fail to mention Anthony Davis. And this is one of the biggest reasons why Perk had him as like an MVP favorite coming in, because he's been playing incredible, bro. He has been playing great. Anthony Davis in his last, I'll say, 5 to 7 games has been the best player in the league. That's even with Luka. That's with Giannis. Steph going crazy still. Anthony Davis has been the best player in the league these last 5 to 7 games. And I wanted to give that a shout out. And lastly, before we go, baseball offseason is here, and it's already started off with a bang. Trey Turner goes to the Phillies for like 11 years, $300 million. Cody Bellinger goes to the Cubs. Jacob deGrom goes to the Rangers. Justin Verlander goes to the Mets. I do think that was big for the Mets, seeing as though they did just lose deGrom. And while, yes, it's, again, you understand. There's 2 thoughts. It's like, yes, last year Verlander did win the Cy Young, I believe, or a year before he won the Cy Young. So he's still good. Hell, and he was one of the big reasons why the Houston Astros did just win yet another champion or World Series. However, he will be 40 when he's in the opening game, which is kind of but you do get him for 2 years. So I get that. And you don't have the lengthy contract that Jacob deGrom holds, even though Jacob deGrom is still good. You don't have that lengthy contract. The biggest name, of course, is Aaron Judge, where he's going to go. I think the two leaders right now in that Aaron Judge boat is the San Francisco team and the New York Yankees. What? San Francisco? Why is the team's name escaping? Good God Almighty! The San Francisco Giants. I'm sorry. The San Francisco. I'm tired, guys. I apologize, but the San Francisco Giants. I know. John Heyman came out and was like, he's going. Aaron Judge is signing with the Giants, and had to back it up and say, "Oh no, I mean he's headed there." Like, for an interview or something. I don't know. I will say this, though. We'll talk about it when Aaron Judge makes a decision, but I promise you, one thing that's in the back of Aaron Judge's mind is how this whole money thing played out with New York a year before. So I'm going to say about that. But, it has been a very interesting MLB offseason, and it's just going to get even more interesting. Again, a team that won 111 games lost two of their top few players. Now, yes, you still have Mookie Betts, you still have Freddie Freeman, you still have Clayton Kershaw, but you lose Cody Bellinger. Now, he has struggled recently, but you lose Cody Bellinger and you lose Trey Turner. He's one of the best shortstops. Hey, we'll see how that goes. But once Aaron Judge makes a decision, we'll talk about it. And there you have it. That has been today's episode of the Unpopular Podcast. I appreciate you guys. If you want an Unpopular Podcast shirt, sweater, hoodie, long joggers, long sleeve, the link is in the description below. I have multiple different colors, multiple different designs. Get your Unpopular Podcast merch today. Also, please subscribe to if you're listening. Please subscribe to if you're watching. It definitely means a lot to me. And until next time, much love.